For those who are just joining us, if you could just share what year you are and if you're a student or parent. Um, Also, if you want to turn on your video, love to see your smiling faces, but if you got other stuff going on, I also understand. All right. Well, since we only have about a half an hour, why don't we get started? Um, Thank you all for joining me, and glad you could be here. Um, uh, my name is Brennan Barnard. I'm the Director of College Counseling, and I'm working at, most of this, let me just go back. Most of this is just going to be an open Q&A, so love to hear just kind of what's on your minds. But I just want to start with a couple of thoughts, just one slide about, as you saw, summer planning. And um, you know, the short version is summer should not be a time when feel you need to cram it with, every scheduled moment. It really should be a time to rest and recharge first and foremost. And there's no one right way to spend your summer in terms of how it impacts college and college admission. You'll hear a lot of hype out there about, you have to have an internship or you have to, do research or have to do this, you should do this. Really being active, taking time to rest and recharge, but then being active and doing something is important. Whether that's, being a camp counselor or going to camp or just working a job, working a 9 to 5 job at a scooping ice cream or at a grocery store or whatever it might be. Or if it's volunteering somewhere, whatever you do, just do something. Don't don't take time to rest, but then don't just sit on the couch and play video games. Um, and uh, and it's really important to be able to explain why you did what you did. So having an understanding of that for yourself. For some, it might be just to make money to contribute to family or to your own expenses and things like that. For others, it might be I'm really interested in astrophysics, and so I took a summer program in that at a local school or at a pre-college program. And then if you are a rising senior, if you're a junior going into your senior year next fall, um, allow some time to get some work done in terms of essays and applications because the fall will be busy and you don't want to come back to school with a whole bunch of like some people say that applying to college in the fall feels like a whole nother course, like one added course. So taking time to do work on essays and supplements and your application is really important. For both junior rising seniors and rising juniors, so current sophomores, it might be a good idea to do some test prep and prepare for the SAT and the PSAT and things like that in the fall or the ACT. Because oftentimes the summer between ju sophomore and junior year is a good time when there's a little more space in your life to do some test prep. So I'm going to leave it there. Does anybody have questions first and foremost about summer planning? And then, we can also talk about just general questions you have. So either just unmute or raise your hand or put it in the chat and we will see what's on your minds. I'm also all right with silence, so I can do silence. Go ahead, Don.
Hey, Brennan. Thanks for all the your first book of yours that we read is terrific. Thanks for all the
Thanks.
guidance and insights. It's invaluable.
Thanks.
And we're now underway in our college visits. Done some interviews and some non interviews.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, I guess it's maybe okay. So for being able to show to differentiate yourself, especially for schools, if we're going to take the no testing option, and not every school even has as an interview. Lewis and Clark didn't do
Right.
interviews.
Fewer and fewer are doing interviews.
Yeah. So I just would love any advice on differentiating yourself, and especially if we're going to take the no testing option.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, I think that's the benefit of a forced education, right? Is you'll be differentiated just by the fact that Finn or other students are at Forest, and the apprenticeships and the type of experience you're having. But the ability to articulate that through essays and other writing is going to be really important. So I think in addition to the classes that she's taking, also just the essays and supplements are going to be super important for that.
Okay,
Um,
great.
and then, I mean, like I was saying, like, one of the ways is through summer planning. Like if there's something you don't have space for students within the year, that you have space for to kind of engage in the summer, that shows your level of curiosity or your ability to take initiative. I think those are really great ways to kind of stand out.
Great. And maybe just in a more mechanical way,
Yeah.
how do you communicate those? How do you convey how would you look to convey that, outside of just maybe the narrow space of the essay?
I mean, the essay really is it, or in the additional information section or in the activity section.
Got it.
I mean, because if they're not doing interviews, you can have conversations with the admission officer in when they come to do school visits or at a college fair, but they may not take notes on that. So it really is within the space of the application that gets communicated, and in counselor recommendations. And so talking to your guide who will be writing your recommendation and saying, I just want to make sure that you um, highlight this aspect of what I did. And because that's a real opportunity for the counselor. I mean, it helps us as professionals kind of communicate that to the college, and they put a lot of weight on that.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, great. All right. So is it too late for fall admission? No, you can still apply. There's a number of I mean, some schools, and especially the most selective schools, are already, the application process has come and gone, and they're already managing wait lists. So for those schools, it is too late. But there are a ton of schools that still have open enrollment for the fall. And our professional association, the National Association for College Admission Counseling, will be coming out in the coming weeks with, or maybe actually in late May or mid-May, with a list of schools that still have openings. So. All right, Leo, if I have the opportunity to either chase a club opportunity towards a hobby of mine or pursue a better ACT score, what would you suggest? Um, that's a great question. I mean, if it is a school that has that's test required, and they have a test score um, kind of range of accepted students, their mid-range, that is a lot higher than what you're currently scoring. It would be worth to put some energy into that. If the school is test optional, then you might want to pursue the hobby and stand out that way. But the it's kind of a balancing act, and so I would look specifically at each individual school and what they seem to be valuing. You'll get a sense for, if you have a 28 ACT and their ACT is a 32, their ACT is like their range is like 32 to 34, then you do want to spend some time working on that. All right. What else? What else is on your mind?
Can I ask you one other question that came out of the
Please
interview?
keep
Um,
coming.
so, Far School Online wants 3 years of math,
Yep.
and for the it seems like the more competitive of the colleges that this was one wants to see four.
Yep.
So, but we want to keep everything relevant in the spirit of what Forest School is about. So we're looking at the world of financial literacy, and I guess my concern was everyone in the world is offering some version of financial literacy, and they're not. They vary wildly in programs. If we
Right.
wanted to show a math that really related to, she's not going to be a math major, she's going to be, she doesn't really love math, but wants to do something real world. What's your instinct if we said if how should we proceed? She's up.
Yeah, I don't think they're really, most schools will not count financial literacy as kind of a math course, like a solid, like a core course.
Okay.
The reality is, the more selective schools, again, there's a range of schools, but the more selective schools are looking for students to ideally take 4 years of all the core subjects. So, English, history, math, science, foreign language, and are really looking for students to continue those all on through all 4 years of high school.
Thanks. That's great.
Yeah. What else? Don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Kelly. I'm sorry I'm driving, so I can't come off of camera.
No worries.
Yeah, my heroes are eighth grade and fifth grade, but my
Okay.
question is really for the rising ninth grader and starting to think about, college opportunities or post high school. What
Yeah.
would you say are the biggest challenges that you've noticed between kind of the four school model and trying to explain that or it translating over into the college application and admission process?
Yeah, I actually, I would say, I would take it the other way. I would say it's more of an opportunity than a challenge. I think the forest experience, and maybe this was on before you got on, but I think the forest experience actually really helps students stand out among a lot of other applicants that have just kind of traditional high school experiences because not only because we have a unique transcript, but also because just the experience they've had and the opportunities they've had for apprenticeships and real world learning and student centered and student driven learning really makes students stand out in a way that they wouldn't if they were just looking at a standard transcript and kind of checking boxes. And so I think um, your heroes will, over the time, will come to understand how to communicate that best, and will help them as they get into late high school and apply to college, how to self-advocate in ways around the learning model there and what they've learned and what they've taken away from it. And again, some of that will be communicated through essays. That's our job also as counselors is to communicate that to colleges and make sure we're advocating for students at the colleges to which they're applying if they're less familiar with Forest, then we reach out to them and give them context for the type of learning students are doing.
Great, thank you. You answered my follow-up question, so thank you.
Oh, good. I love it when that happens. Um, all right, Lauren, how many colleges and universities do you recommend applying to? And where can parents, students find codes for application? Yeah, free waivers. That's a great idea. My advice on this has changed over time. I used to say kind of 6 to 9 colleges. I think the way things have kind of shifted, I would say that it is they're probably looking at 9 to 12 colleges. I highly recommend not applying to over 15, right? Like, I've seen students, not at Forest necessarily, but in recent years at other schools, they have schools of like lists of 25 or 30 colleges. And to me, that's just you're not one, doing your homework and doing the research on the front end. And two, it's a lot of work. Even though many of them are on the Common App, a lot of them have supplements. And so I would do, t 10 or so schools really well. And in terms of fee waivers, they on the Common App they can request a fee waiver, and we as counselors that waiver comes to us, and we can confirm it and share it with the school. All right, Leo, is there a way to access transcripts of students who got accepted? No. Um, because transcripts are student specific and are confidential to that student, we can't share specific transcripts for students who got into schools. I mean, if you have a friend who's gotten into some schools and are willing to share their transcript, then they can share it with you. But we can't share that information with students otherwise. Um, uh, and it's a good question about matching. I'm glad you brought that up, Leo. That idea of focus on matching your transcript. I in general, like overall, the whole college admission experience, I would. I would really be wary of this idea of what I'll call kind of pattern matching, right? The it's so specific in any given year and any given school what they're looking for, and how you stand out as a student, that it's dangerous to kind of go in with this idea of, oh, okay, this student, um, you know, the last 2 years, the captain of the volleyball team was admitted to this school, and they also took these classes and had these scores. And so, if I apply to those schools and I'm the captain of the volleyball team and have take those same classes, my likelihood of getting in is really strong. It's just, in my experience, is not the reality. And so, I wouldn't kind of drive yourself wild with trying to conform to what somebody else has done. I think that kind of standing out uniquely yourself is going to have more of an impact. What else? What else is on your mind? How about Seth and friends? Any questions from you guys? Nothing? Just along for the ride?
I have like one small question. When's a good time to like start my college app essay?
Are you a junior?
Yes.
Yeah. This spring is a great time. As we get into the spring months in the summer, we'll have another session just on essays. But now is a great time. I mean, whenever you have an idea, I would just start doing some writing. I don't think there's a time, you need to wait for. Definitely over the summer. My advice to you is that you return to college or to return to high school in the fall with a solid uh, understand like a solid draft of a pretty polished essay. So I think now is a good time to just do some free writing. Like if you have an idea, write a couple paragraphs and rather than get to the place where you're like, okay, now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write my college essay. I think sometimes that's kind of a little daunting. So just doing some free writing from now and when you have some moments, or if you have a thought before you're going to bed, just jot it down and work on it over the summer or something like that. Good question. All right. Key differences between early decision, early action, and regular admission. So, early decision is an application plan where you apply to one school. You can only apply to one school early decision at a time. And you apply to that school. And if you're admitted, you're bound to go. So you're saying, this is my first choice. This is where I want to go. So I'm going to apply here. Usually the deadline is around November 1st or maybe November 15th. And you're applying, and because you are bound to go if you're accepted, you can only apply to one school in that way. And so you apply, and if you get in, the only way you would be released from that kind of contract, quote unquote contract, is if you were couldn't afford it. But early action is similar, but it's not binding. So you're not required to attend if you get in. So you can apply to multiple, usually you can apply to multiple schools early action, and then you learn earlier in the year if you're admitted, but you still have until the spring, until May to decide where you're going to go. So there are a couple schools, Stanford, the a couple schools that have what's called restrictive early action, meaning you can't apply, you're not bound to go, but you can apply to other schools early action. But so that's the key difference between those, and then regular decision is and I should say early action, the deadlines are usually around November 1st, November 15th. There are some state schools in Georgia and others, that have October 15th deadlines, like Georgia Tech and some other schools. So be aware of those. And then regular decision is just you apply and on a kind of a regular schedule. A lot of times those are January 1st deadlines. Um, some schools have what's called rolling admission, meaning you can, starting in sometimes even in August, you can apply and they kind of roll out decisions as the year goes along. So those are the key differences there. Um, let's see. Reputable gap year programs. There are a bunch of different gap year programs. Uh, you know, there's a gap year fair. Let me see if I can grab I'm going to take this stop share here. I'm going to see if I can grab the site for the gap year um, group here. But I would just do kind of your due diligence when you're looking at gap year programs. I mean, there's things like Semester at Sea, there's Outward Bound, there's a bunch of different programs, and um, there's a bunch of programs that um, it doesn't have to be a specific program. You can kind of a gap year, you can kind of craft your own gap year, which sometimes is even more meaningful. Um, let's see if I can find it really quickly. Um, one is Go Abroad. That's another program. Well, I'll send it out separately. But in terms of reputability, it kind of varies. What else? We have about 5 minutes left. Other folks have questions. Can you do early action and early decision while telling the college you want to do a gap year? Yeah, I mean, for gap years, you really don't need to decide if you're going to do a gap year until the spring, right? So um, you can kind of consider doing a gap year all along and apply to college and get in either early action or early decision or regular and decide where you want to go, and then and then um, and then basically defer your admission for a year. So you would say, I'm going to take a gap year next year, and then they would you have to formally do it through the college. But I've not run into a college so far that has not let a student take a gap year and still honor that admission decision the following year. These are great questions. What else? Feel free to unmute if that's easier to ask. Juniors, I'll ask you a question. Are you generally excited about this opportunity, the college experience? Are you like where's your pulse? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you stressed? Are you fearful? What's your general feeling? Still thinking about it. Well, I guess I will just say my hope to you is that you don't get caught up in the hype about college admission. This is not something you need to stress out about. This is something you can be really excited about and be look at it as an opportunity rather than something you need to kind of endure or get through. Um, all right, Josie, I feel good about this. Yep, good. That's ideally how you should feel. Um, and we're here to support you with the common application and essays and applications. So that's you've got lots of support. Any final questions here before we close out? For a reach school, is it better to apply to start during your sophomore year versus freshman year or better at? For your, if it's a reach school, if it's really selective and it's better to apply for in your for the first year because they take less students as transfer students. So, the biggest pool of students they're going to take is during that first year. If you don't get in when you first apply and you go somewhere else, and then you can, then you have a second shot to try to transfer if you still want to. But definitely apply as a first year student.
Okay, so I have a question. Would you suggest me going to like community college for like my first year to take all like the math, sciences, and then transfer to like a university as a cheaper option?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's a great way to save money, for sure. I would just be aware of how many transfer students they take. Again, kind of back to that previous question. So understanding if there's one school that you're really hoping to go to after a community college experience, just be clear on, what the odds are that you'd be admitted as a transfer student, and how many credits you can bring in with you and all that kind of stuff. And so part of that is maybe if you're interested in that route, which I think can be a really great one, like you say, and save a good amount of money, is go talk to the folks at the community college about talk to their kind of their transfer coordinator and see what their success rate is in helping students transfer to a college. Oftentimes, what students will do is they'll do not just 1 year, but they'll do 2 years and get an associate's degree first from the community college, and then so spend 2 years, do that, and then transfer for the final 2 years to a college or university. All right. Great questions. We will be back again next month. In the meantime, if you have questions, just let me know. And really appreciate you all joining us. And sorry for the snafu with the the Zoom last earlier this month, but I'm glad you all could make it. And have a great week, and we'll connect soon.